The security footage from the Grandview Hotel's 6th floor was supposed to be deleted, but I kept a copy. What you're about to read is why I can never work another night shift, why I can't stay in hotels anymore, and why I know that some guests never really check out. Marcus Chen had worked plenty of odd jobs during college, but the night clerk position at the Grandview Hotel seemed perfect. Midnight to 8 a.m. 4 nights a week, and most of the shift was quiet enough to study. The pay was decent, and Jerry, the manager who interviewed him, seemed eager to fill the position. The last 3 night clerks quit without notice, Jerry admitted during the interview, fidgeting with his tie. But I'm sure you'll find it's really quite peaceful. Just you, the occasional late arrival, and plenty of time to yourself. Marcus should have asked why 3 people had quit. He should have noticed how Jerry's smile didn't reach his eyes, or how the day shift employees always seemed in a hurry to leave before dark. But he needed the money, and the Grandview Hotel, despite its age, maintained a respectable 3-star rating downtown. The Grandview stood like a brick monument to mid-century ambition. Built in 1952 by Theodore Grandview, a railroad magnate with more money than sense, it boasted 127 rooms across 6 floors. The lobby retained its original marble floors and brass fixtures, though the chandelier had been replaced after what the staff only referred to as the incident of '78. Marcus's training began on a Tuesday night in October. Brenda, the evening clerk, walked him through the basics, checking in late arrivals, handling wake-up calls, running the night audit, and dealing with the occasional drunk guest. She was a woman in her 50s who wore her exhaustion like a uniform. Now, there are some things Jerry probably didn't mention, Brenda said, glancing at the clock. It was 11:47 p.m., and she was already putting on her coat. Rules that aren't in the employee handbook, but you need to know them. She pulled out a worn piece of paper from behind the desk, covered in different handwriting styles, as if each night clerk had added their own warnings over the years. First, room 414. Guests sometimes ask for it, but we don't have a room 414. There's no 4th floor. The elevator goes from 3 to 5. Old Mr. Grandview was superstitious about the number 4. If someone insists on room 414, you tell them it's under renovation. Marcus nodded, though he found it odd. What else? Room 237 might call the desk at 3:33 a.m. Don't answer it. Just let it ring. It'll stop after 13 rings, always 13. Why would... And if someone named Mr. Henley checks in, Brenda continued, not letting him finish, you give him a corner room on the 6th floor. He pays cash, always exact change, and you don't look at his face. Just process the transaction and give him the key. Don't look at his face. Brenda was already at the door. Trust me, you'll know Mr. Henley when you see him, or rather, when you don't see him. The clock struck midnight. Good luck, Marcus. My number's by the phone if you need anything, but... She paused. Try not to need anything. And then Marcus was alone. The first few weeks passed without incident. The job was exactly as advertised, mostly quiet, with the occasional late check-in or early check-out. Marcus developed a routine. Arrive at 11:45, review the evening's notes, settle in with his textbooks, and watch the hours crawl by. He kept a pot of coffee brewing and learned which vending machines had the best snacks. The hotel at night had its own rhythm. The ice machine on the 3rd floor hummed and clunked every 45 minutes. The elevator occasionally ran itself, which Brenda had assured him was just a quirk of the old system. Buildings this age develop personalities, she'd said. Marcus grew comfortable with the night sounds, the settling of old wood, the whisper of air through the vents, the distant hum of the city beyond the windows. He even grew fond of some regular guests, like Mrs. Patterson, who traveled for business and always brought him cookies from whatever city she'd visited. It was his 5th week when things began to change. The night started normally. October had given way to November, and the hotel was busier with holiday travelers. Marcus had checked in a family from Ohio, helped a businessman print boarding passes, and was settling in with his economics textbook when the lobby lights flickered, 47 p.m. The lights steadied, but something felt different. The air seemed heavier, like the pressure before a storm. Marcus looked up from his book to find a man standing at the desk. He hadn't heard the door open. The man wore a charcoal suit that looked expensive but outdated, wide lapels, a thin tie, the cut of a bygone era. His hair was slicked back with too much pomade, and he stood perfectly still, hands clasped in front of him. "Good evening," Marcus said, setting down his book. "Checking in." The man nodded once, a precise movement. "Henley, I have a reservation." Marcus's fingers hesitated over the keyboard. This was the Mr. Henley Brenda had warned about. He kept his eyes on the computer screen, searching for the reservation. There it was. Henley, 1 night, corner room requested. "I'll need a corner room," Mr. Henley said, his voice flat and oddly hollow, like an echo of an echo. "6th floor." "Of course, sir." Marcus focused on the screen, processing the check-in. He could see Mr. Henley in his peripheral vision, standing motionless. The man didn't fidget, didn't shift his weight, didn't even seem to breathe. "That'll be $127.50, Marcus said. Mr. Henley placed exact change on the counter. The bills were crisp but felt strange, older somehow, though they were current currency. Marcus counted it quickly and slid a keycard across the desk, still avoiding direct eye contact. "Room 612, sir. Elevators are to your right." Mr. Henley took the key without touching Marcus's hand. "Thank you." He turned and walked toward the elevator, his footsteps making no sound on the mat. Double floor. Marcus finally looked up, watching the man's retreating back. Just before the elevator doors closed, Mr. Henley turned his head slightly, and Marcus caught a glimpse of his profile. He immediately wished he hadn't. The man's face was wrong. Not deformed or injured, but wrong in a way Marcus couldn't articulate. Like a photograph that's been copied too many times, losing definition with each iteration. Features that should have been sharp were soft. Edges that should have been soft were too defined. It was a face that hurt to process, as if Marcus's brain couldn't quite accept what it was seeing. The elevator doors closed, and Marcus realized he'd been holding his breath. He tried to return to his studying, but concentration eluded him. Every few minutes, he found himself checking the security monitors, looking for movement on the 6th floor. Room 612's hallway remained empty. At 1:30 a.m., the phone rang. Room 344. "Front desk. This is Marcus." "Yes, hi." The guest sounded agitated. "I'm sorry to bother you, but there's someone standing in the hallway outside my room. They've been there for about 10 minutes, just standing there." Marcus checked the monitor for the 3rd floor. The hallway was empty. "I don't see anyone on the cameras, sir." "Which direction are they?" "They're right there. I can see them through the peephole. Tall man in an old suit, just standing perfectly still." Marcus's blood chilled. "I'll send security to check it out right away, sir." The Grandview didn't have security. It was just Marcus, alone until the morning shift. But he grabbed the master key and headed for the elevator, his heart pounding. The 3rd floor was silent. Marcus walked slowly down the hallway, his footsteps muffled by the worn carpet. Room 344 was midway down. He knocked softly. "Sir, this is Marcus from the front desk." The door opened a crack, held by the security chain. A middle-aged man peered out, his face pale. "Did you see him?" Marcus looked both ways down the empty hallway. "There's no one here now, sir. Can you describe what you saw?" "Tall, dark suit, standing about 10 feet from my door. He wasn't doing anything, just standing, facing my room." The man's voice dropped. His face looked wrong. Wrong how? The guest struggled for words. Like someone tried to draw a person from memory but couldn't quite get it right. I watched him through the peephole for 10 minutes, and he never moved. Not once. Then I called you. looked back, and he was gone. Marcus assured the guest he would monitor the situation and returned to the lobby, his mind racing. He checked the computer. Mr. Henley was the only guest on the 6th floor, but the 3rd floor guest had described him perfectly. The rest of the night passed uneasily. Marcus found himself jumping at small sounds, checking the monitors obsessively. At 3:33 a.m., the phone rang. The display showed room 237. Following Brenda's instructions, Marcus let it ring. He counted. 1, 2, 3. The shrill sound seemed to grow louder with each ring, echoing off the marble walls. 7, 8, 9. His hand hovered over the receiver, curiosity warring with Brenda's warning. 11, 12, 13. Silence. Marcus released a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. He glanced at the monitor showing the 2nd floor. Room 237 was supposed to be vacant. He'd checked the system. But as he watched, the door to 237 opened slowly. No one emerged. After 30 seconds, it closed again. By 5 a.m., Marcus had given up any pretense of studying. He sat rigid in his chair, watching the monitors and the lobby entrance. The coffee had gone cold, but he didn't dare leave the desk to make more. At 6:17 a.m., Mr. Henley appeared in the lobby. Marcus hadn't seen him exit the elevator or come down the stairs. One moment the lobby was empty, the next, Henley stood at the desk. "Checking out," he said in that hollow voice. Marcus processed the checkout quickly, keeping his eyes down. "Thank you for staying with us, Mr. Henley. I'll see you next month." It wasn't a question. When Marcus finally looked up, the lobby was empty. The front doors hadn't opened. He checked the monitors. No sign of Mr. Henley anywhere. It was as if he'd simply ceased to exist. Sarah arrived at 7:45 for the morning shift, finding Marcus pale and exhausted. "Rough night?" she asked, setting down her purse. "Mr. Henley checked in," Marcus said simply. Sarah's cheerful expression faltered. "Oh, did he?" "Room 344 saw him on the 3rd floor, standing in the hallway." Sarah nodded slowly. "He does that sometimes, visits other floors. Jerry says it's best not to think about it too much." "What is he?" Sarah busied herself with arranging the desk. "I've worked here 8 years, and I've learned not to ask questions like that. Some things about the Grandview, they just are. You accept them, or you find another job." Marcus gathered his things, eager to leave. As he headed for the door, Sarah called after him. "Marcus, next time Mr. Henley checks in, maybe call in sick. It's not worth the overtime." But Marcus needed the job, and over the following weeks, he convinced himself he'd overreacted. Old buildings played tricks on the mind. The lighting was poor, he'd been tired, and ghost stories had a way of making shadows seem sinister. He developed coping mechanisms. When the phone rang from room 237, he turned up his music. When the elevator ran itself, he focused on his textbooks. When guests reported strange sightings, he offered logical explanations and complimentary breakfast vouchers. December arrived with a bitter cold that seemed to seep through the Grandview's old windows. The hotel was fuller now. Holiday travel, and shopping tourists filling most rooms. Marcus had grown confident in his routine, even comfortable with the hotel's quirks. That's when Ashley started. Ashley Kim was a freshman at the same university, bright and eager, with an infectious laugh that seemed out of place in the Grandview's somber overnight hours. Jerry had hired her for the weekend night shifts, giving Marcus Friday and Saturday nights off. "I'll train her properly," Marcus assured Jerry. "Make sure she knows all the procedures." Jerry nodded absently. "Just make sure she knows the important things. The things that matter." Marcus spent Ashley's first night showing her the computer system, the night audit process, and the various maintenance quirks. She was a quick learner, asking smart questions and taking detailed notes. He found himself enjoying her company. It was nice not being alone in the hotel for once. "So what's the deal with the 4th floor?" Ashley asked during a quiet moment. I noticed the elevator skips it. Original owner was superstitious, Marcus explained. No fourth floor, no room 13 in any floor. No what? Marcus hesitated. He'd been about to mention the other rules, the ones Brenda had shared. But Ashley was looking at him with such earnest curiosity, and suddenly the warnings seemed foolish. Ghost stories to haze the new employee. Nothing important, he said finally. Just old building superstitions. The night passed peacefully. Ashley was competent and professional, handling late check-ins with ease. By 6 a.m. she was joking about how everyone had made the night shift sound so ominous. I was expecting ghosts in every corner, she laughed. But it's just a quiet old hotel. Marcus smiled, but something nagged at him. He should tell her about Mr. Henley, about room 237, about the things that weren't in the employee handbook. But how could he explain something he didn't understand himself? Same time tomorrow? Ashley asked as their shift ended. Yeah. Hey, Ashley? Marcus called as she headed for the dude. Well, if anything weird happens, just call me, okay? Doesn't matter what time. She gave him a puzzled smile. Sure, Marcus, but I think I can handle a few drunk guests and broken ice machines. Marcus worked alone Sunday through Wednesday, falling back into his routine. The hotel seemed quieter than usual, as if waiting for something. He found himself checking the reservation system obsessively, looking for a particular name. Thursday night, Ashley bounced into the lobby at 11:45, full of stories about her finals and holiday plans. Marcus tried to match her enthusiasm, but dread sat heavy in his stomach. He checked the reservations. Mr. Henley had booked room 612 for tonight. Anything I should know about? Ashley asked, settling in behind the desk. This was his chance. Tell her about Mr. Henley, about the rules, about the things that happened in the Grandview after midnight. But looking at her bright, eager face, the words died in his throat. She'd think he was crazy, or worse, trying to scare her. Just the usual, he said weakly. I'll be here until 2 a.m. to help with anything. The first 2 hours passed normally. Ashley handled the desk while Marcus worked on inventory in the back office, staying within earshot. At 1:47 a.m., he heard the lobby door chime. Good evening, Ashley's voice carried clearly. Checking in? Marcus froze. He knew with cold certainty who had arrived. He moved quickly to the office doorway, peering into the lobby. Mr. Henley stood at the desk in his charcoal suit, hands clasped, perfectly still. Ashley was looking directly at him, waiting for a response. No, Marcus whispered, stepping forward. But it was too late. Ashley's expression changed. The polite customer service smile faltered, replaced by confusion, then something deeper. Her face went pale, and she took an involuntary step backward. I'm sorry, sir, she sinned.
Ahmed, let me get your reservation.
Her hands shook as she typed. Marcus watched, paralyzed, as she processed the check-in. But she kept glancing up at Mr. Henley, each look lasting longer than the last, as if she couldn't help herself. Room 612, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. She slid the key card across the desk with trembling fingers. Mr. Henley took the key. Thank you, Ashley. He knew her name, though she hadn't introduced herself. I'll see you later. He turned and walked to the elevator. Ashley stood frozen, watching him go. Just before the elevator doors closed, Mr. Henley looked back, and Ashley made a small, strangled sound. Marcus? Her voice was thin, frightened. His face. Marcus rushed to her side. Don't think about it. Just don't think about it. But it's not. It's not right. It's like it's moving even when he's still. Like there's something underneath that's trying to get out. Ashley, listen to me. There are things